So now we'll actually look at the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland is actually made of two parts. One is the anterior pituitary gland, also known as the adenohypophysis, and the posterior pituitary gland is known as neurohypophysis. Both together, they're known as the hypophysis, obviously from the hypothalamus. And let's see. So they're both made from ectoderm, but the anterior actually does not connect to the hypothalamus. It actually kind of comes up from the mouth ectoderm and communicates with the hypothalamus via the hypophyseal portal system, which goes into from the superior hypophyseal artery to the primary capillary plexus, to the portal vein system, to the secondary capillary plexus, and just diffuses out. So, what does the anterior pituitary gland do? Well, it secretes about 6 different hormones, which includes anything from TSH to that's thyroid secreting hormone, to ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone, to the gonadotropes, which is FSH and LH, which stands for the follicle stimulating hormone, and the luteinizing hormone. And the two that are not tropic hormones are the prostaglandins and the growth hormone. There you go. What prolactins? Really bad with hormones, but we'll go into that later. So, in the posterior pituitary gland, it is connected via the infundibulum and connected to the supraoptic nuclei and the paraventricular nuclei. The paraventricular secretes the oxytocin, which is the hormone that makes the contraction happen in birth in the positive feedback cycle, which is really cool. So the infant's head push against the uterus wall, and then that releases more oxytocin. Oxytocin causes more contractions, causing the infant head to butt more against the uterus wall, and happens all over again. And the supraoptic releases ADH, which stands for antidiuretic hormone. It decreases the urine output, and many other things. So, the cells that are in the anterior pituitary gland are glandular epithelial cells and tissues, and in the posterior it's a nucleal kind of cell, and it's pituocytes. Yeah, and actually the posterior pituitary gland is kind of like a storage shed for hormones. It doesn't really function well. It's not structured like an endocrine gland, although I guess you can say it functions like an endocrine gland. So, an anterior pituitary gland is 3/4 of the pituitary gland, so it's much bigger than the posterior gland. And both of these sits up on your sella turcica in your skull, which is really cool. And the posterior connects to the hypothalamus via the infundibulum. So, that's the pituitary gland. Yeah, and then hypothalamus connects to the posterior via the hypothalamic hypophyseal tract. The hypothalamus controls the ANS, the autonomic nervous system. If you recall, it controls temperature, hunger, body fluids, in cadaver lab. We said it's does the 4 Fs: the feeding, the fighting, the flighting, and sex. I did not come up with this, but it's rather interesting. So that's the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. I'll put information I missed over on the information bar.